Nesibaigiantys lietuvių krepšinio stebuklai seniai pakerėjo visą pasaulį. Užsieniečiai iki šiol ieško atsakymo į amžiną mįslę, kur slypi Lietuvos pergalių paslaptis. Po Lietuvos rinktinės triumfo 2003 metų Europos pirmenybėse ir savo tautiečių dvikovos su lietuviais 2007 Europos čempionate, garsus Prancūzijos žurnalistas Thierry Breton pateikė dar vieną versiją, kodėl vos 3 milijonus turinčio šalies rinktinė nuolat užlipa ant nugalėtojų pakylos. Gal kaltos chromosomos, raudonieji kraujo kūneliai ar pilkasis smegenų audinys. Tačiau Šarūnas Jasikevičius man primena kitą Šarą – Marčiulionį, itin gerbiamą buvusios Auklendo bendruomenės ir Nelsonų šeimos numylėtinį. Krepšinį su visais jos staigiais šuoliais, nuolatiniu nerimu ir laimėjimais lietuviai išgyvena savo širdimi ir krauju. Galbūt todėl jie žino visas šio žaidimo subtilybės. Kiekvieną dešimtmetį krepšinio arenoje pasirodo vis naujų lietuvių veidų. Nepaprasta ir nesuprantama šalis, kuri gyventojų skaičiumi prilygtų vos keliems Šveicarijos kantonams. Magija, stebuklas, o gal tiesiog gera pedagogika, tvirtai įsišaknyjusios ir gerbiamos tradicijos bei istorinis palikimas. Paslapties šydas iki šiol neatskleistas, nes esminis klausimas lieka be atsakymo. Iš kur žengia ši virtuozų plejada, ši neįveikiama krepšinio meistrų armija? Paklausykime, ką kalba apie lietuvių įtaką ir žymios NBA figūros.
You know, for me, I think that they had a profound influence because it isn't like they came from Western Europe. They came from this evil empire. But it was over as fast as the wall came down because the result was that the question is, do you have game and do you contribute to the home team? So, and the notion is if you can accept someone from the evil empire, which of course they weren't, they were from Lithuania, you could accept anyone. But to us, it was just a question of getting them the minutes, and we knew that our fans would embrace them. They always do. It doesn't matter where you're from. Do you have game and do you help the local team? And that's the beauty of sports. And listen carefully. Listen to Šarūnas say that I don't want to speak to you in Russian. You could begin to learn a lot more about what's going on in the world from the sports pages at times than you can from the front pages.
After my rookie year, I'd heard talks about Šarūnas and actually Sabonis coming over to play in the NBA. And, I had played against these guys, and I knew that they could play, in the NBA. But we didn't know what team that they were going to go to. And then all of a sudden I heard that Šarūnas would be coming to the Golden State Warriors. We knew, this guy just beat us in the Olympics. Still with some bad blood there, no doubt. But I knew that he can play, he can help our team, and we were playing the same position, so I knew it was going to be a fight in practice every day, just trying to, to see and compete. And I was actually like in practice playing like I was playing for the gold medal, and I think he was playing the same way. So we kind of really helped one another through him coming.
Did you have any sense? Give us how green was he? He speaks decent English now.
Right.
But what was his lack of American?
Oh, he didn't speak much at all. But you can tell he was an intelligent guy, and I always tried to talk to him just real slow and talk to him, but he would understand. Sometimes I don't understand. When he didn't want to understand, he didn't want to understand. But he was a great teammate, to tell you the truth. He was a great teammate, great competitor. We had wars, man. If you get anybody like Chris Mullin, you can ask Chris Mullin. We had wars in practice, and we pushed one another to the brink every day. Drazen, for sure. He played well when he came in the NBA. Divac and Šarūnas. Those three players. Could play in the NBA, could dominate in the NBA, and can still do that today. And I think they were the pioneers for opening up the floodgates for the Dirks, and some of the other players that play in here now. But I think they were the pioneers of basketball.
Yeah, the first time I heard Sabonis' name, I'm going to guess he was 17, 18, or 19. And the phrase which was attached to him was the best big man in the world. You know, college, NBA, he was the most talented big man on the face of the earth. There was a lot of mystery to it because at that time, and there was other players as well in other countries that you heard about. Or maybe they would come over on a tour, play a good game against a college team, and they would never come back. So players weren't coming to the NBA like they are now. So if they came in for a short stint, that's all you heard. And maybe you didn't get any footage. It was by word of mouth. But Sabonis was one of those legendary players that eventually came over, but probably past his prime. In 1989, when Šarūnas came to the Warriors, my perception of a European player was pretty much a spot-up shooter, strictly role player, not very creative, very fundamentally sound. Šarūnas broke that impression by being an all-around player, more of a scorer than a shooter. Played at an incredible pace, physical, driving the lane with reckless abandon. The type player other players didn't want to guard. I mean, his strength was just, I think to this day, I mean, I haven't played with a player physically as strong as him at any position, never mind at the two-guard position. In basketball, the first barrier you have to break down is acceptance. And the way you're accepted is by getting respect and being a good player. That's the first barrier. Šarūnas had no problem with that. He was a great player. He had proved it, he had confidence. Socially, he's even more of a star. He's a warm person. And even if he doesn't, at the time, didn't speak the same way, you could just feel it coming out of his body. It's just in his DNA. Šarūnas' legacy, to me, is he was the European trailblazer. He really was, because in my mind, there was a few guys that came before him, and no disrespect, but they didn't play that prominent role that he did. And I think he was the first player to play that big prominent role, average about 18 a game on a good team, and kind of made it okay to be more than just a role player, that you can carve out your space. You know, he gained respect around the league. And like I said earlier, people didn't want to guard him. He was hurting people from the offensive end. You know, most defensive players foul you hard. He was beating people up on the offensive end. And he carved out his respect. And I think it did help the players behind him, and even the players that were with him, Vlade and those guys, to say, hey man, he's stepping out a little bit. He's not staying in his comfort zone. He's carving out his area, and Šarūnas did that. Now, I think it still would have happened. I think the '92 Olympics was a big vehicle for the other European players, that this was not just something that happened over there. It was something they could really touch and feel. You know, they saw Magic and Bird and Jordan and all these, Barkley, that whole dream team had a huge impact on the growth of the game. But before that, Šarūnas had started that in motion.